Hello, Harv Roman.
Hey, Sandi Castillo Smith.
So yes, I am Sandi Castillo Smith, and I am turning the tables on Harv Roman today. He is the man that asks all the questions, and I thought it was about time he gave us some answers.
This is the flip the script interview.
Flip the script.
The shoe on the other foot interview.
The shoe on the other foot.
Is there any other ways that you could say that? Flip the script, shoe on the other foot. Time to wear a different hat. Turning the mics around. I don't know.
Freaky Friday?
Ooh.
Ooh.
And it was almost Friday the 13th. That was last week.
That was last
We
week.
should have did it last week.
Special shout out and thanks to Boys and Girls Club Division in Washtenaw for letting us use the facility today.
We are sitting in the building that I used to run. The
That's
building that I
right.
was a director of.
That's right. I'm meeting some of the lovely young gentlemen that
Club kids
that are grown and now they're running the
they
joint.
were my club kids. Once upon a time, and you see that they have their little staff IDs now, so they can club kids to staff.
So you do a good job.
Did I have an impact on you?
Yes.
Good.
Actually, that's the perfect segue. So for those who don't know, I reached out onto Facebook and asked for your fans, your friends, your followers to give me some questions.
All two of them?
To give me some funny stories that we can talk about. And I think the topic that was most hit, myself included, and specifically Sergio Maldonado, he was wondering what motivated you to dedicate yourself to the community, to youth. And I'm curious, was there a stepping stone before Boys and Girls Club?
Well, because I was a club kid, so I became a member of the Boys and Girls Club where I grew up when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And that was more, I tagged along my older brother for the first few months, and then he stopped going because he didn't want me to be anywhere near him because we had that kind of relationship. And then I kept going. So I started as a 9-year-old kid, and I did a lot of volunteering for a 9-year-old. I wasn't a super athlete, I wasn't a brainiac at that time, I became a brainiac later. And I got my first job at the club as an 11-year-old hockey boy. I was making $1 an hour.
Well,
$1 an hour.
$1 an hour.
And then when I was 13, they trusted me to start doing special events in the game. And then when I was 14, I got the gaming job. And then I progressed from position to position until I became a program director. And then in 2002, I became the director of the club that we're sitting in now. So I was the club kid that became a club director. So the dedication to the youth, I think, was probably more of a give back because the club had done so much for me when I was a kid. And I wanted to do some giving back to the stories that I had in common with the kids that were growing up at the club. You know, I think that's what it was. I mean, the club impacted me, the director impacted me at the time. Yeah, he still does. We're still friends to this day. He just retired, he's 68 years old, and we still call each other.
That's amazing.
And I think because they took the place of my family in a lot of ways growing up, I thought it'd be a good thing for me to do it. And I was there, I had like a 30-year career with Boys and Girls Club. And I worked at a charter school, so I'm still working with kids. And even though I'm the ex-director of this club, they still open the doors to me and they still have me coming in doing the things that I want to do that are radio related or leadership related, which in a lot of cases, you know, can come and go. Nobody wants to see the ex-director and the new director downstairs. But there's handshakes, there's hugs, there's hugs.
Well, you know, and that kind of brings me to another point. I did hear from a couple of people that you were like a dad. So you were a second dad to them.
Yes, I have a 26-year-old son.
No, but you
You
were a father to many other children, and I'm guessing that's why you get the handshakes and the hugs and just the open arm welcome every time you come in here. It was more than a job for you. It sounded very personal. I imagine this kind of position how could you not be personal with it?
Well, it's kind of an interesting question because with some people it is a job,
Okay.
and that's all it is. You come, you do your hours, and you leave. And with me, it was never like that. I didn't intentionally set out to be a father figure or a mentor to anybody, but what I did set out to be was whatever it was that they happened to need at the time. So if they needed a big brother type of thing or an uncle type of thing, then I felt like I had to fill that role with some of these kids because unfortunately in the communities that they grew up in, we're in Humboldt Park right now, and the club that I used to work at was in Westtown, and at that time Westtown wasn't what it is now. It was wasn't pretty. And those kids needed a lot. And you know, the bad news is a lot of the families were not intact. There were gangs, there were drugs, there were a lot of issues. And I decided that I was going to do what I could to try to keep them, you know, doing the right thing. And yeah, I've been called a mentor and a father figure by several. And I always try to minimize it. You know, I've got a little chameleon in me where I don't take compliments well. You probably noticed that in the past. But there are several that have said some things. And I got blindsided once by Christina Figueroa, who's now a federal probation officer. And I had her speak at the Union League Club to some of our girls because, you know, she had a tough beginning in her childhood and she did some things that she probably wasn't proud of. Eventually got out of school, became a teen mom, and then decided I'm going to go to school and get a master's degree and all this. So I looked at her as somebody who our girls could learn from. And so we did a program here in this building with her.
Oh, wow.
And after that, I said, you know what, I'm going to talk to the Union League Club. I want them to know that you're a club kid looking at you now.
Yes.
I did not expect her to tell our stories. I did not expect her to say, you know, how Harvey impacted her. And she also teaches at DePaul. And for the last 3-4 years, she has had me speak to her students. And after I'm done talking to her students, then she'll tell the story of she met me when she was a little girl. And she's now not a little girl anymore.
Right.
And, you know, the impact statement that she made in terms of myself, you know, I didn't decide I was going to brand her hard. It was just, it happens that way, and it happens that way if you're doing it for the right reasons. And I think it was a combination of me wanting to have an impact on these kids. It was a combination of me wanting to give back to the club that gave to me. And I also think that they played a role in my life that they're probably never going to realize because my family isn't, you know, I cracked about my older brother a little while ago, you know, not talking and whatever. But the truth of the matter was, we were not a Brady family, or a Partridge family, or a Walton family, or what's the one, the modern family now, with Al Bundy. We weren't that. And so I think a lot of times the kids at the club literally filled that gap for me. They became kids, or nieces, or nephews, or grandkids, or however you want to do it.
I think actually that's a great segue into another point I wanted to talk to you about. From Monica Vasquez Martinez, she said, being a role model to so many young people, surely you've taught
How do
them.
they know this?
Surely you've taught them some life lessons. She was curious what they have taught you
What the kids have taught me.
over the years. Yeah, what lessons have you picked up from them? You got one listening. Make it good.
What have the kids taught me?
Well, you said they filled a void of family, so maybe not teaching, but maybe a way they give back.
Well, I mean, the kids always were a reason for me to be here, or to work with them, or to come up with things for them to do, you know, like the radio show that we do with the kids. They may have taught me that you're never told to learn. You know, you can learn from them just like they can learn from you. They've taught me some things that aren't so great in terms of, you know, the things that they go through, and I think they've taught me, especially in this generation. It's 2012 now, so there are so many lifestyles, so many ethnicities, so many different types of kids, and I've been taught to kind of treat them all in the same, regardless of where they're from, or who they like, or what their families are like. I think that I was taught throughout the years that they're all kids, they're all good. Even they used to call these kids bad kids, and I said, no, there's no such thing as a bad kid. It's just some kids are better than others, but they're not bad, because you can always find something in someone that that's redeemable. And I think maybe that's one of the lessons with the kids. If I hadn't been doing youth work, I don't know what I would have been doing. I don't know if I would have been doing radio work or what, but you know, anything that gives you reason to want to do something, then you do it. Sure. And the kids at the clubs, I think that's what it was. I mean, they gave me reason to want to go to work. I never, at the clubs, said to myself, man, I don't want to go to work today. And now, at the age of 48, there are times when I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go to work today. But with the Boys and Girls Clubs, I never had that feeling. I always wanted to go to work. I always put in more hours than I got clocked in for, and I never regretted it.
Wow, that's a wonderful thing gonna say. That's the ideal job, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was ideal for a long time.
Well, I would be remiss if
I'm trying to
this,
figure out how people like Monica are connecting me with Boys and Girls Clubs, because her name is familiar to me with like the freestyle and the radio stuff.
well, like you said, I mean, you've got people watching, listening, tuning in. Maybe they're not saying so on your pages, leaving comments and such on the Wake Up Dancing, but I mean, they're there, they're listening. I'm listening when you don't know you're.
Yeah, well, it could be the Club Kids show, if they
Sure.
happen to tune in on a Saturday morning, because generally that's geared towards kids and their parents, who are now, used to be my kids.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know.